Hey everybody, so today we're going to go over the most recent homework. Sorry this is a little overdue. Thank you for being patient with me while I went through the move. I think this will clear up a lot of questions, and I'm going to extend the deadline for everybody at least a day, possibly a couple days, just to get partial credit for any confusion that there might have been on this homework assignment. Before that, a couple quick administrative announcements. First of all, there is going to be a curve to the class. As I mentioned in the beginning, the intent is that the majority of students will get an A in this course. If you put in the time doing the homework, the quizzes, understanding the lecture, there's no reason you shouldn't get an A. And I realize that's currently not the case in Canvas. So there's going to be about a 5-point curve. Don't hold me to that, because it will vary based on the project grades and so on how much that curve is. But the intent is for the majority of people to get an A, and for that to happen, with the grades are as they are right now, we're looking at about a 5-point bump to everybody's grade. So I just want to make you all aware of that ahead of time. The second announcement I wanted to make is please start working on your project early. This is the most important part of your grade, and many of you submitted great ideas. I'm really curious to see what you come up with when you do your analysis. And you have some of the inferential tools to start exploring these ideas. Even if you don't have your full data set, for those of you who are manually collecting it, you can build charts and visualizations using the data you have thus far. Right? Keep in mind that those results should not influence your research in any way, but having them built out in JUMP will make it very easy when you do get future data to enhance those visualizations and start making interpretations and conclusions, so it's not all waiting for you the last week of class. All that said, let's go over the homework. So this homework was about looking at relationships, specifically using a t-test. So we're going to go to fit y by x. And the relationship we were looking at, if I remember correctly, we wanted to know, it was either League or division was the factor variable, the x variable, because it's the independent variable. And our dependent variable was, I believe, batting average, right? Because we wanted to see if having more designated hitters on a team would lead to a better batting average. Let's go ahead and do this. It was not division, it was league. So let me fix that real quick. Do league, batting average. Okay, and here you get JUMP's default visualization. I wanted you to do your own visualization because I actually don't think this is extremely informative. We see American has a wider range, possibly a slightly higher mean and median, but it's hard to tell in this format. So I think something like a box plot, overlaying histograms or overlaying density plots would be more informative. And if you did that, you would see that American does have a very slightly higher mean and median than the National League. But them being so close together already gives you a hint as to what your t-test results should be, which is that it's very likely not going to be hugely significant. So let's go ahead and do a t-test, and you get those results right here. Now, one thing, I want to talk a little bit about the hypothesis before we get into the results of the t-test. These are actually not the results I was expecting, so I'm thinking, I did stolen bases by accident. Let me fix this real quick, and then we'll talk about the hypothesis before we get into x variable is again league, and then I wanted batting average instead of stolen bases. Okay, there we go. Then we could run a t-test, and these are the results I was expecting. Okay, first I want to talk a little bit about the hypothesis testing. Most of you did this correctly, but quite a few of you, there was some confusion, which tells me I wasn't super clear in that hour-long lecture where we went over the t-test. So your null hypothesis should always include equality. And what I mean by that is that the equal sign should appear in your null hypothesis and not your alternative. So however you want to frame it, whether you do mu American equals mu national or mu American is less than equal to mu national, the equal sign should be in there. It should never be in your alternative hypothesis. Your alternative hypothesis, in this case, the way the question was worded, it's specifically asking, the theory that you're testing is the American League better at batting as a result of this designated hitter rule? So it's mu American greater than mu national, which most of you did get correct. I just add that you shouldn't write your American, national, group 1, group 2, however you label them, in the same font as you write mu. It should be a subscript. So it should be mu subscript A or mu subscript 1 or mu subscript American, however you want to write it, greater than mu subscript 2, N, or national. Just to make it more clear, you want to write the group name or variable or abbreviation as a subscript. So that's the first point on the hypothesis testing. Now I want to talk a little bit about how you interpret this t-test. Obviously, JUMP is doing the calculation for you, but you know how to do this calculation. The numerator is pretty straightforward, right? You're subtracting the two means. And the order in which you subtract them is very important. What's group 1 and what's group 2? And by default, group 1 is American and group 2 is national. Though some of you did it the other way around, which is fine. You just have to know which of these p-values to consider. And I think this was a point of confusion for a lot of you. So this is a one-sided test in that we're only interested in American being greater than national in the alternative hypothesis. This first p-value is a two-sided statistic. It's looking at data more extreme than the t statistic you calculate in either direction, which is why it's so large in this case, because the t statistic you calculate is essentially zero, right? It's pretty close to zero, and as your difference is very close to zero. Oh, and I'm realizing now actually that this is reversed because it's negative, and I know American is a little higher, and it tells you that right up here. It says national minus American, so it's treating American as group 2. Unlike the default assumption of American minus national, it's doing national minus American, and you get a negative difference of essentially zero. And then here's your t statistic. So because it's one-sided, we can rule this out. This is looking at t statistics more extreme on either end of the distribution. We only want t statistics more extreme on one end. The question becomes which end. And because this is negative, and we want American to be bigger, just think about it intuitively. National minus American. In my alternative, in order to reject the null, I need American to be bigger, so I want more negative values, not less negative values, if that makes sense. So I want values as or more negative than my current value. So I would look at this ratio. So the difference between the two is negative, which means American was larger. And I want more extreme data, so I'm going to look to the left. Yeah, so either way you're going to get about 0.5, but this is an important distinction that I'm just realizing now. Some people did say 0.5002, which, for all intents and purposes is the same as 0.4998. But we want more extreme in this direction. So the correct answer was actually 0.4998. I'm not going to take off points if you put 0.5002 because the default assumption is American minus national, and JUMP, for whatever reason, reversed it. You can specify it, however. So if you go to, instead of going to t-test, you could go to equivalence test for means, and now you get all the options. So we do want to do a t-test. We didn't even talk about Wilcoxon test, but that's a non-parametric way of doing it without assuming the t distribution. We don't want two-sided. We want one-sided. Now the question is, which side do we want, superiority or non-inferiority? And this kind of gives you a visual of it, but it really depends on which group you're defining as the control. And that's what you're going to do down here, is define which group is the control. If you select all pairwise, it's going to compare all groups, but because there are only two, it's only going to do one comparison anyway. So I would just do with control so you can specify which one. And to me, national is the control, because I want to do American minus national. So if I do American minus national, I want the difference to be greater than my delta.